Hi people, my name is Marko Milić and I'm working as a senior developer at TSOBE. Today I will try to explain you idea of Open Bank project and what is the Open Bank project really. So as you can see in this title, bank as a platform and transparency as an asset. So the main idea of Open Bank project is to provide you all functionality which banks provide to the customers over some platform, API platform in this case. So this slide will tell something about our vision. So why do we need, 25 years ago, someone will ask, why do we need a website? And answer in 2000, the answer would be, of course, we have a website. Today, in 2010, the question would be, why do we need one API? And today, in 2 or 3 years, answer would be, of course, we have one API. So I will explain that in addition. Why API and why is API so useful in this case? So Open API for every bank is very useful for many reasons. But I will explain you in addition later. What we use to achieve that, it's open standards. In this case, we use, for instance, JSON. JSON is some open standard which is widely used over the internet. We use, of course, open source. For instance, we use free open source web frameworks, which is in this case Lift framework, and we also use Django, which is framework written in Python. Lift framework is written in Scala. So the main idea is that banks gain faster time to market and save money. Also, developers will have easy data access and can avoid all bank rules and limitations which they usually have. So why is that important? I will skip this slide for now. I will go to why now. So as we can see, most of millennials, which is young people, in this case 71%, would rather go to the dentist than listen to what banks are saying. Also, 3/4 of millennials would be more excited about an offering from new entrants than from their own bank. Of course, aging IT systems is a big limitation, obstacle to develop some fancy application. For instance, most of banks still use some mainframe application which are written in COBOL. And of course, why now? Because of upcoming regulation. In this case, it's PSD2, which is European regulation, and UK open banking, which is British regulation. Australia also has some regulation, but it's out of scope for this talk. Okay, so this is a brief overview. This is a brief overview of architecture of Open Bank project. So as we can see, first layer is banks customers. The second layer are trusted developers, and between trusted developers and core banking system is Open Bank Project API layer. So our goal is to customize aged core banking system to be available to modern mobile, web, and other application. So now I will try to explain how we do that. So as you can see, I divided our Open Bank project layers in two parts. First part is public-facing APIs. Public-facing APIs is API which is considered to be something which is standardized and which is not changed over the time. Open Bank connectors or south-side adapters are a piece of code which is different from bank to bank. So if you want to implement Open Bank project at some bank, then connector would be definitely different. So this is our API catalog. Till now we have more than 160 API definitions. These API definitions is actually some API endpoints, restful endpoints. I will explain that and demonstrate later. So restful. So under the hood of this Open Bank API project are restful endpoint. In this case, so we support get, post, put, patch, and delete restful endpoints. Why we stick to restful? Because it's open standard. It's supported by many client servers all over the internet. If our API is consistent, then developers can make some assumptions about our endpoints and can easily write application. I will try to demonstrate that now. Just a moment. I will start. So, what? I cannot do that because of resolution. I'm not sure. Just a moment. Aha, you think? Sorry. So, okay, I will try to explain with some live example. So this, for instance, do you have some question? Okay. To minimize. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. Is it now better? Okay, okay. So this API Explorer is actually Scala application written in Scala, and the main purpose of this API Explorer is to show to developers API catalog. So as you can see, if we press this version 3.0.0, then this API Explorer will list all OBP API endpoints which are with version 3.0.0. And for instance, I will use this for get accounts. Just accounts. So I will get accounts at my all my accounts at the bank. Sorry, I have to put it, press the get, and then I will get some response. This response is JSON response, and yes, under the hood of this API Explorer, it's what happens. The real RESTful API call. So this we can do that, of course, with any RESTful client, with curl or whatever, with Postman. But we use API Explorer because it's easy to see. It's some kind of documentation, you know, about our API endpoints. And just a moment. Okay, so I will show you, for instance, now we have some ongoing support for UK open banking. What that can bring to some third-party developers. For instance, if someone writes some application which supports UK open banking standard, then because open bank project supports that. Just a moment, I have to just to press it. Okay. So because Open Bank project supports that application, they will be able to use their own application in way they already used. So we are the layer which will provide you RESTful endpoint, which covers UK open banking. And in this case, for instance, as you can see, it's a different. I will try to show you. Just a moment. Okay, and now I will try to explain you some user scenario. You can imagine that some user which want to write some third-party application use this endpoint accounts. So how is it useful? For instance, if you have application and you want to list all your accounts, you will use this endpoint to list your accounts. So the next step would be if someone wants to see details about some specific account, then they will need some another endpoints which will list only that account. I will show you how it looks like when you have to code it in our case. So I will show you how we add a new endpoint in our application. So basically, this piece of code represents our new endpoint. And as you can see, this part is documentation, and this part is actually Scala code for this endpoint. And now I will apply that code. And this part of code add this endpoint to the catalog. So it will be listed in API Explorer. Okay. Okay, now I will start application and show you what's changed in our API Explorer, and you can, in the meantime, ask me some question, what is not, if you have some doubts or something like that. Okay, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I probably just haven't paid enough attention, but have you said about legal status of the project? Is it financed by some startup, company, bank, or is it just open source? What's license?
This project has a commercial and open license, so you can fork this code, change, do whatever you do, but it also has some commercial stuff. But I'm not allowed to talk about this, so you will ask Simon Redfern about this, because he's CEO and founder of this project, and can you explain you he can explain you that actually. What? I didn't understand question, sorry.
There is a single company behind it.
I hear you very well, but I didn't, sorry. Is there a single company behind that? What does that mean?
I mean, every single developer working on this project is related to some company, or other developers who's working like in their free time and not related to this same company?
I work for this company as a, I don't know, paid developer. I don't know what to say. So
Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to confuse you. I just try to understand the
okay,
situation.
but I don't understand questions. Sorry.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
it's not a problem. Okay, so in the meantime, I will show you what's changed in this API Explorer. As you can see, we have one more endpoint in addition, and in the okay, sorry.
You mentioned that you use Lift framework.
Yes.
Lift is completely distinctive from RESTful API from MVC because it's based on view-first approach. Is it convenient for you?
Lift Web. Yes, Lift Web is convenient for us at all. The only tweak we has to do is when we has to involve Akka in our project. In that case, we has to do some additional work in order to support futures, but it's out of scope for this talk. I don't want to confuse others.
Okay.
But it's convenient, yes. So as you can see, now we have one more endpoint in this list, and what's convenient in this case that we don't have to run again. We don't have to change anything in API Explorer in order to see that new endpoint. So the trick is to this resource documentation. So we exchange in JSON format resource documentation, and then API Explorer parse that documentation and can reproduce RESTful endpoints. Okay, so I will show you. As you can see, for these two, we have two accounts in this list, and if I want to see only one account, I will then use this endpoint. So everything will be the same except this suffix of UUID of account ID. So as you can see, this is only work we need to add some new endpoint. Of course, someone on you can argue that we filter existing accounts. That we filter existing accounts, but it's only 5 to 10 accounts in a first list. So, okay. Of course, there is more. We have these two applications. I will show you. These two applications are written in Lift Web. So this is the main Lift Web application with in which you can register your register a user and so on and so on. But the main point was on this API Explorer because of RESTful endpoints. This API Explorer can give you insight to all API catalog we have. We also have one more application which is written in Django. It's a Python application, and it is used to work with entitlements. For instance, entitlements are used to guard some endpoints. Can you read or know some? Can you read or know some account? Can you do something or no? It's achieved by entitlements. If there is enough time, I can show that now, or we can ask some question. Okay.
There was already much earlier standards like SWIFT, that's like for interbanking.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just a little bit curious why, when you invent APIs, you didn't try to extend like this or like make use of it.
I'm not expert about the Swift, but as far as I know, it's not it's used between banks, you know. Yes, but this application, the main purpose of this application is not to do some transactions between banks. It's used to allow third-party developers for easier making to make it easy to make some mobile application or something like that, because banks are there are so many rules in banks, and you cannot change something easily. You have to obey to their rules, you know. So I don't think that okay.
Just one question. If, for example, some company develops e-banking or mobile banking solution, what kind of business model is there? Because like the bank does it and they make the money on the customer, and now for example, some other company does it. How do they make money on that?
Banks or third-party applications? Third. Okay, so the banks are interested in open bank project, for instance, because we can do that. Their old systems can be connected to the new mobile channels, you know. So our purpose is to be a middleman between third-party applications and banks. To be honest, I'm not sure about how they earn money, third-party application, but I guess that they offer some fancy screens or something which is not, or they choose some users which are not majority of users for banks, for instance. Banks offers I don't know, some typical interfaces to the customers. So the main thing is that we allow third-party developers, which are mostly young people, to be creative and to make some fancy application. When you are young, when you are 25 years old, you think, okay, only I need is to learn some Android things, Java, and I can write useful application. But when you try to use that application for some real situation, then you realize that you didn't consider security, some other things. What about scalability, blah blah blah, deny of service, and 24-hour support and something like that. So this open bank project is a way to it's some kind of separation of work, you know. So you do what you do the best and outsource the rest. So in this case, outsource some boring stuff, some boring tasks with banks, and that's it. And of course, yes, I will just make you some insights. For instance, what bank can request. For instance, they want to say, okay, your application is good, it's okay, but you know what? These 3 tables I want to run on my servers behind my firewall. Can you do that? And suddenly you are in mess how to do that. And for instance, we use Akka in order to be able to use the same code, and just with one property in our file, we use Akka. And then for some tables which are separated by Akka, we can deploy that table behind some firewall in some secured environment, and so on and so on.
In open banking project, have you adopted GDPR? Do you follow privacy by design, especially for cross-border transactions?
It's ongoing support for that. So that's only I can say at the moment. I'm not. I'm the core developer, but I'm not. How to say? I cannot cover all functionalities.
Some glimpse of such approaches in technical view.
Excuse me, some?
Some glimpse, for example, some examples of following such architecture from technical viewpoint.
How we will achieve that? So, okay, can you explain me this in addition?
Some example. For example, this stuff was done because of GDPR.
I don't have a right example at the moment for you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I will ask my the rest of our developers, and I will come to you with answer.
Thank you.
I don't want to give you some wrong answers. Sorry. Yes, if you are, because I'm software developer, senior software developer, I can give you some more insight about technologies used here and something like that.
Question 1: Are you running your platform as
Okay.
or bank running? Are you running your platform? Is you operate the platform and the developer work with you, or bank deploy your platform?
Okay, I understand your question. So we do that, and of course, this is just a moment to open bank API. So this is some picture which will explain deployment in addition. So there is, as you can see, Open Bank project is behind some firewall. After that, we have a second firewall because we use Kafka to Kafka connectors to communicate with bank. With banks, this is the second layer of firewall, and of course the third layer is a core banking system and some tables which are stored in secured banking area. So we can do that, and of course banks, but after that we only do maintenance, and it's on some it's on bank servers and so on and so on. If that was the question.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, okay.
Yes, and some part of API is on your servers and some part of bank servers.
It depends. It depends. It can be on our servers, but mostly if bank wants our Open Bank project stack to be on their servers, then all of this would be at bank servers. So we, sorry, just want to say, so we brand, so it's some kind of white label project. Yeah. So it can be branded. If that's your question, sorry, I didn't understand.
Just very short. I can't imagine a Swiss bank having this hosted somewhere out of Switzerland. It's probably illegal, and in many countries you have like data protection laws, and data shouldn't in uncontrolled way flow between borders.
Yes.
So
yes.
probably that enforces hosting at least close to the bank in
yes.
some cases.
Yes, and I will say about this data protection. So we use. Sorry, this is. So we use OAuth 1, which is, so we use OAuth 1, OAuth 2, direct login and gateway login. So gateway login is totally custom, something custom. I will stick to OAuth 1.0, which is implemented, and OBP API server works as a OAuth server. OAuth 2, we also use OAuth 2, but we use, but Open Bank project is not a server. We use, for instance, some external server. In this case, Mitra ID as a demo, but we expect that in future banks will want to secure customers' data, and they will provide us some authorization server and authentication server. Direct login is some kind of logging which is used mostly at hackathons and for third-party developers for easy access to our endpoints. So if you don't want that your development work would be some boilerplate code related to OAuth, then you will use direct login. But of course, when you go to production, you will use OAuth and OAuth 2 as well.